name is Dita Voss. We are at Fort Stevens here. My job title is tour guide. I like to add that to this tour because it gives you a bird's eye view of what exactly where I'm taking you to. As we come across the bridge here from where the ship drops you off, we go away from Astoria and we kind of go down out to the edge towards the beach. So taking you up to the column really lets you know what we can see and what we really have to protect as far as the end of the river goes. Also, our column is a great monument that was built in 1926. It's got beautiful pictures on the outside of it that were there. Also fashioned after the Trajan columns in Rome. In fact, we're the only other place in the world you can come see anything like the Trajan columns. The pictures on the outside tell you of the immense amount of history that had happened in this area. So it really gives us a good jump on what we have here in this little tiny town full of history. I've been doing this particular tour for about 5 or 6 years. It's really cool because I get to take people to the ocean to see the Iredale. I know you guys have been floating upon it, but it's different to get on our beaches here, which are very unique. With our white sands, for instance, to go see the Iredale. Also, this particular tour, it tells you a lot about what's going on the river and as far as our defenses go. Early on, as early as 1850s is when we started to really get a hold of what we needed to protect here. As early as 1812, the War of 1812, we actually flew the British flag until 1824 here. So at that time, we didn't have any military installations here. So we ended up turning everything over voluntarily to the Hudson's Bay Company. And they ended up flying the British flag until the Treaty of Ghent in 1824. I imagine that's why we got on it in about the 1850s to decide we needed to protect the end of this river so that wouldn't happen again. No longer have the scare of having to have high tea at 4 o'clock, for instance, you know. We were named Fort George, named after their king for quite a while there. So having our fortifications here, which has turned out to be our triangle of defense, and historically that is what it's come to be known. There is a line of sight between all 3 of these installations that we have at the end of our river that needed to be there because we had the only fortification here during the Civil War on the West Coast. They were pretty self-sufficient here during the Civil War. They could go do their hunting and take care of themselves and get their own food, for instance. World War I, we still hadn't diked off a lot of this to dry it out a bit. It was the only time in history there were Army-issued hip waders. So it tells you what kind of icky, marshy stuff they had to deal with to build this stuff up. World War II, this really became an important spot. They brought nearly 10,000 Navy boys into our town. And that was when they actually passed a law after Pearl Harbor that nothing could sit on our shores with bombs or guns anymore. So I imagine that explains why we had so many of those Navy guys, being that they doubled our population. Now, we did spot a Japanese submarine here too, which is another reason why I like to take you to the ocean, right on the other side of that sandbar, which is where that submarine came up to. It was actually June of 1942. We did not fire back upon them as to give away our installation where we were exactly, because he didn't know exactly where he was or where our installations were. Being they are hidden in the hill, you cannot see them from the riverside or the ocean side. This has pretty well been the best kept secret for many years. We were doing a landmine project here. They figured out the electricity coming from that steam over there, its own electricity, so when the town had blackouts during World War II, they could still remain in contact and also have the safety fortification with their own electricity. When those kids go back to school, Labor Day, that's pretty much when we start to get into our rainy season. In fact, we pay attention to our rainy season starting October to October, so that tells you right there when it starts to rain around here. We get about 65, 70 inches of rain per year. We don't get a lot of snow, being we're so close to the ocean, it kind of dips down. We get a little more ice than we do snow, and that's a good thing with all these hills we have around here. We've been known as Little San Francisco for that reason, in this tiny town of 10,000.